Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a session hosted by SLASSCOM. In today's session, we will feature speakers from Willy Global Technology, Tengri UAV Private Limited, 360 IP Japan, RRD Global Outsourcing, and Synopsy Inc.
Hello everyone, I'm glad to be here and be a part of this virtual Invest Sri Lanka forum. My name is Bimal Gunapala. I'm the General Manager for Wiley Global Technology. We started in Colombo in 2019 as Wiley's latest technology center with an initial investment of $5 million. At the time, Wiley already had growing technology centers in Russia, Brazil, and of course in other locations where Wiley had offices like in North America, Europe and Australia. 2 years later on, we have grown to over 430 full-time employees in Colombo, making this the largest technology center of John Wiley & Sons. And we are not slowing down. We estimate to be over 600 full-time employees in the next 15 months, almost all technology positions. So Wiley's main business is publishing. We are into research and education publishing and related services. We have been at it for over 2 centuries now. In the current day and age, technology has become a key enabler for our business. Wiley has offices in 23 different countries around the world, and we wanted to ensure we utilize the best talent possible. We ended up in Sri Lanka as we knew Sri Lanka has some some of the most attractive technology talent. Skilled, experienced, good communicators with great work ethics, all at an attractive cost. Our original plan was approximately 200 engineers in 2 years. But when our local talent started delivering, the demand kept on growing. We ended up with more than double that initial estimate. So one might think the story sounds pretty rosy so far, but let me assure you that we had and we still have our fair share of challenges. For example, for much of the last 12 months, our recruitment has been behind schedule. We are experiencing somewhat of a saturated market. We recruit both lateral hires as well as fresh graduates. We can't seem to get enough of both, especially at the quality we are looking for. This is not entirely surprising given the fact that Sri Lanka is not having enough technology talent to meet the demand of a growing sector. As per the ICTA workforce survey report that came out in 2019, the total ICTA demand in Sri Lanka was just over 21,000. The supply of ICT graduates was approximately 9,000. That's less than half the demand. But if I take a step back and look at what makes Sri Lanka successful in this industry, right? I have been in this industry for 25 years now, and I've seen technologies come and go. While Sri Lanka has never produced skilled graduates in this sector in huge numbers, one thing that we have done, however, is maintaining the high quality. And that is why this sector has always been successful in Sri Lanka, in my opinion. In a climate where people are trying to mass produce everything, especially maybe even at the expense of quality, I believe Sri Lanka technology sector has kept its focus on quality, and that is our strength. But at the same time, we cannot rest on our laurels. We have to take this industry to the next level. We want to attract those companies who are looking to expand in a large scale, maybe 3,000 employees in 12 months, while maintaining the quality that we are renowned for. So what can we do? I believe there are two ways that we need to address this. On one side, short to medium term, and in the other side, in parallel, more long-term engagements. So if you talk about the short term or medium to short term, I believe we need to encourage more females to take technology jobs. For example, the percentage of female employees in the ICT sector is less than 30%. There is huge potential there to increase capacity. We must also increase the number of graduates in existing universities by adding capacity. Universities can also look to open branches or affiliations in other regions. We shouldn't make it mandatory or necessary for people to come to Western Province or the main regions for them to get qualified in. I know ICTA, SLASSCOM and other similar organizations are focused on innovative ways to increase capacity in the industry. That's great. And while we are working on increasing the number of graduates, which of course means investing on higher education, we must also set up other paths for those who do not qualify for university studies for them to acquire necessary skills. Vocational studies, higher diplomas, bridge programs are some of the few that can be utilized. If we talk about bridge programs, they could be for undergraduates or even for graduates of other disciplines who are now finding it's a struggle to find work in those disciplines. So it's kind of like a retraining. If you talk about that, for example, Wiley, at Wiley we have a successful business model to bridge such higher education gaps. We use it in countries like USA and India, and we have seen that work. We also need to improve standards in higher education degrees that are on offer. We have already begun to partner with some of the local universities to help shape their curriculums, and I think that is a very important feedback loop from the industry to the universities or academia, so the trainings and degrees can be kept relevant. In addition to technology, we must teach students process, ethics, leadership skills, and all these soft skills so that they are ready to hit the road running when they graduate. I'd hate to see technology graduates failing an interview for not having communication skills. And this happens more often than people might think. So if I briefly talk about the long-term strategies, again, these are long-term because it takes a longer term for the outcomes to come through. But it doesn't mean we don't need to start now. In fact, we need to start fairly soon. I believe we need to focus on doing a proper study on the overall job market in the next 5 years or even longer to understand where the openings are going to be and what sort of things the companies, what sort of skills the company is looking for in the future. We also need to, in parallel, have a study of our entire school system and higher education system to understand if what we are producing or what we plan to produce aligns with the job opportunities that are out there and that are going to be out there in the next 5-10 years. And lastly, I think we need to set long-term policies. This is a no-brainer. We need to have solid policies, long-term policies that can remain and will be supported regardless of any administrative changes. So if I summarize everything I've said so far into 3 points, in conclusion, I believe Sri Lanka workforce is known for our skills and work ethics, technology skills and work ethics. That's a strong combination. We can make this more attractive if we increase the capacity while maintaining quality. So if what I'm seeing in this technology industry is anything to go by, doubling down on technical training can increase our advancement through to a knowledge-driven economy. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my talk today. My name is Romesh, and I'm going to talk to you today about my experience as a tech entrepreneur, CXO, an investor, and engineer working in Sri Lanka, especially my experience developing deep tech for a global market. I spent the last 12 years building 2 deep tech companies based out of Sri Lanka, and I managed to break into a global market right from here using Sri Lankan engineers. And today I want to talk to you about some of my experience. I'll start with my story. I'm a graduate of a Sri Lankan university. I studied at the University of Peradeniya, which is located in my hometown in the central hills of Sri Lanka. Quite soon after graduating, I received a Clarendon scholarship from the University of Oxford to read for a PhD in artificial intelligence and machine learning. My focus was on the use of machine learning for DNA analysis. I finished my PhD in less than 3 years and was then headhunted for a job at an Oxford University startup specializing on the use of high performance computing for cancer drug discovery. There, I built one of the first distributed machine learning systems for identifying drug candidates. I love living in the UK, but always wanted to come back home. The opportunity came up when a colleague and I decided to take a step at starting our own company. We had received a lead on a simulator the Australian and US armies were looking out for. I moved back home to Sri Lanka and my friend moved back home to Australia. And from home, we spent a year writing the initial bit of code. We were awarded a sale almost soon after showcasing the system to these two armies. And then we used this cash to set up my first company, which I will introduce to you in a bit. As I said earlier, I co-founded two companies since my return. Both these companies focus on deep tech and build products for a global market. Both have very, very different business models, but the core competency and focus remain similar. All the engineering and R&D was done in Sri Lanka. All the IP was based out of Sri Lanka. And each company had customers in more than 25 countries each, mainly in Europe, North America, Australasia, and of course, 90% of the staff were Sri Lankan. To start with the first company I founded all the way back in 2008, SimCentric builds a simulator-based training system for a number of militaries around the world. The core focus is on the use of gaming technology to build specialist simulators. Starting with the two co-founders, it's myself and my other co-founder. SimCentric now employs more than 100 people in Sri Lanka and around the world. SimCentric currently has contracts with more than 25 militaries, which include the US Army, the US Marine Corps, the UK MOD, French MOD, Australian MOD, German MOD, Canada, New Zealand, and lots more other countries. We also have contracts with commercial customers like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Booz Allen, where we develop products in partnership. SimCentric's IP consists mainly of a simulator for call for fire, which is the management of large artillery batteries, call for airstrike, and a couple of tools to generate civilian and traffic for simulators that people run. These products have been used by a number of militaries now for more than a decade. All the R&D for all these products was done in Sri Lanka with sales and support officers in the UK, US, and Australia. My second company, which I founded about 6 years ago, was Tengri, Tengri, a UAV company. Tengri builds a device which allows UAV builders to integrate their components using plug-and-play functionality. This allows complex UAV systems to be built and integrated at a fraction of the time it takes them to build them from the ground up. Tengri was a very different company to SimCentric because of the hardware aspect. There were different challenges due to us having to use foreign manufacturers to build our boards. However, the engine, the R&D was all done here. Tengri devices are now used in over 30 countries around the world for a variety of purposes, including oil and gas, real estate, security, delivery, and survey. These customers use the Tengri platform to integrate their components faster and cheaper, usually much faster than building a drone from the ground up. And a lot of these custom drone applications require very specialized components like specialized sensors, specialized cameras, which are usually very, very difficult to integrate into a UAV system, which is up in the air and separated from controls. It's a very complex engineering job. And the Tengri system allows you to do that basically using plug-and-play functionality. Tengri is also working on several joint ventures, which are at different stages of development. But we're doing this mainly to obviously generate revenue and also as an avenue to showcase the platform, showcase the functionality of the platform. And as with SimCentric, all development R&D was all done out of Sri Lanka. SimCentric and Tengri are just the two companies that I have been involved in. But if you study the Sri Lankan ecosystem, there are a large number of companies, international companies working on deep tech who are servicing the global market. We have the global software product and service company giants like WSO2, who builds one of the best or most widely used middleware platforms for businesses. We have the London Stock Exchange here, who acquired a Sri Lankan company called Millennium IT, and they do bulk of the development here. We have the global giant Virtusa. We have Oral IT, who has been working in the AI field for the last 10 years. They've been doing a lot of work on the back end on developing AI for driverless cars. We have the global giant IFS. We have Cisco Lab, which is the R&D and development company of the large US company Cisco. We have CodeGen, who developed their own electric supercar a couple of years ago. And like that, it's just a snapshot of a large number of companies which are currently based in Sri Lanka. And all these companies work on deep tech, at least a part of the work is in deep tech. And it's, a lot of it is done in Sri Lanka. We also have some companies who have development officers in Sri Lanka, like Pearson, HCL, Sana Commerce, and Info. And just recently, over the last 2-3 years, we've had a number of new startups, some of them even based out of Silicon Valley, who are doing their development R&D out of Sri Lanka. Some examples are Pixeda, Codify, which is trying to use AI to map the supply chain in agriculture, and also companies like Veracity AI, which handle a wide spectrum of AI development and R&D work. What allows all these companies to do this, and the driving engine for deep tech and innovations in Sri Lanka, is obviously the education system. And in Sri Lanka, we've been very fortunate to have a very, very extensive education system, primarily free, where state education is fully free. And we have more than 16 state universities, full universities with 7-8 faculties spread right around the country. There are about 5 in Colombo, but then we have another 11 spread right around the country, and there's at least 1 state university in every province. Additionally, there are more than 35 state technical colleges spread throughout the country, and these provide training on the technical domain, electrical engineers, civil engineers, stuff like that. And in addition to that, something that's happened in the last 10 years is that we've developed a very, very vibrant private education system. There are a number of universities based out of private universities based out of Colombo, with branches right around the country. And a lot of them have affiliations with some of the top universities around the world. And this allows us to create even more graduates. Of course, the state universities, the lecturers all support these institutions as well. So the quality of the graduates is quite similar. Many of these institutes produce world-class graduates, showcased by the number of Sri Lankans who are employed by giant corporates around the world. Engineering graduates from Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan universities, can be found at places like NASA, Boeing, Google, Microsoft, Apple, all the top companies. So a lot of them have been employed in Sri Lanka and left because they couldn't find a job that fits them in Sri Lanka. But the quality of the talent and the quality of the people who go out is not in question. So once again, this is an opportunity for anybody who wants to tap that resource by setting up in Sri Lanka. You can always hire them before they head off to another country. Another reason for another enabler for deep tech and R&D in Sri Lanka is the vibrant professional communities that are available around. We have professional communities dealing with different specialties, starting from finance, for engineers, going right down to more specialized fields like AI, product development, cybersecurity. And these are all community driven, where engineers and people within the industry have got together to bring the community together to do capability enhancement, to do awareness, to form more partnerships, to get it going. And this is happening across the board. Each of these professional organizations have been put in place to develop capacity within their specialties. Like I said, there are very active professional organizations for finance, engineering, and other specialties, as well as niche capacities. And a good example is the SLASSCOM AI Center for Excellence, which was set up last year, end of last year, to look at developing AI capacity in Sri Lanka. I'm the founding chairman of this AI Center of Excellence, and I've been leading these initiatives. And I had a ground level view of what's actually going on in Sri Lanka, what's available, what resources we have, and the key goal of the AI Center of Excellence is to position Sri Lanka as a key competency center for AI in Asia. And we do this by forging partnerships with other organizations, by sponsoring projects of national importance. So as a way of creating awareness and actually bringing the power of AI to the community. We're also working on policy advocacy and leadership, where we're developing some white papers, which we hope to propose and present to the government, which will hopefully affect policy, AI policy, data policy, and also benchmarking. How do we map ourselves against other countries? And we're doing all this through 6 pillars, where first is we've got a very wide campaign to create awareness. We've got a series of talks we've organized. We've got several paper articles we will be publishing, and all this is to introduce AI, artificial intelligence, and their use to non-technical people who really don't understand AI all that much. We have a capacity development wing, which is working on increasing the capacity or the skills of those already working in AI, and we're doing that through a number of workshops, partnerships, scholarships, things like that. We have a university relations pillar, where we're trying to bring together the universities and commercial entities, and that's done through projects, partnerships, internships, conferences, and we've got a large pipeline of stuff we're working on. We've got the AI policy and market scoping, where market scoping is aimed at developing a white paper which identifies exactly where Sri Lanka is at the moment on a world context, and that will influence how we look at policy advocacy, how we speak to the government, what are the things we want to push for, going down that line on how to develop a national AI capacity. And the final pillar is on commercialization IP, where we're trying to help companies and startups who are working within the AI domain better help with IP, better help with commercialization, stuff like that. But once again, this AI Center of Excellence is just one example of national initiatives. They're a big part of the Sri Lankan ecosystem, where we have the students who come out of the universities, and then the national organizations take it up from there and try to skill them up to a level where they're competitive in the world. And this is happening across the board. So to end my talk, I'll end with this. I would like you to think of Sri Lanka, consider Sri Lanka as a center for any deep tech R&D development work that you need done. Sri Lanka has proven excellence in deep tech. Sri Lanka is a proven center of excellence for deep tech development, support, operations, and R&D, as has been shown by my experience as an entrepreneur and all the other companies which are based out of Sri Lanka working on cutting edge technology. And this, as I said earlier, is supported by a very, very robust educational pipeline, where we have high quality world-class engineers who have been produced by our universities. These graduates are quite a large number of them are employed in Sri Lanka, but due to certain specialized jobs not being available in Sri Lanka, they end up going and working for top companies around the world, top organizations around the world. So that is once again an opportunity, but also a resource. What I found even working with the AI Center of Excellence is that many of the Sri Lankans who are abroad are always willing to give back. And whenever we call them, we want some help, they're always willing to give their time. And many of them are actually looking out for opportunities to even move back to Sri Lanka, but that's conditional on them having a good job where they can earn something similar to what they're already earning in Europe, the US, Australia. So the global network of Sri Lankans is both a resource for knowledge as well as for recruitment under the current circumstances. And then we have these national organizations which are actively working on and continuously working on upskilling the workforce. So we have the universities, we have national organizations, and we have this international resource, which all, when you come together, we have an amazing resource for taking this forward. My experience as a deep tech entrepreneur in Sri Lanka is that I build very, very complex deep tech products right out of Sri Lanka. And I managed to build a business, a global business where I've sold these products to a global market. And that, I think, it's obviously been a challenge, but we've done that, and I've done that twice. And my experience means that Sri Lanka is a largely untapped resource for this type of development. There's still lots more potential, which I hope you will explore. So Sri Lanka is still largely untapped. It's an opportunity for anybody who wants to develop deep tech products for a global market. So to end, I encourage you to have a look at Sri Lanka, look at our education system, look at the work that's already been done by companies in Sri Lanka, and seriously consider Sri Lanka as a base for any deep tech R&D work that you want to do here. Thank you very much.
Aibowan and Konnichiwa from Japan. I'm Suresh Hettiarachchi, venture partner and technology commercialization manager of 360IP Japan. First of all, let me thank SLASSCOM for extending this invitation to share our perspectives on the overall advanced science and technology investment landscape of Sri Lanka. I also want to talk a little bit about our first venture investment in Sri Lanka and some of our future plans in the country. 360IP was established by Management Innovation Valley Partners, Battelle Memorial Institute, which is the world's largest R&D and commercialization organization, and Battelle Ventures, which is the venture capital fund formed in affiliation with Battelle. 360IP is an international IP and technology investment, fund management, advisory services and commercialization organization focused on leveraging proprietary tools and processes to monetize technology to create significant value and the highest potential returns to all stakeholders. 360IP also brings together the technology and business development capabilities of a global network of founders and technology partners. 360IP Japan is a subsidiary of 360IP, established in 2012, and we at 360IP Japan manage the investment fund called 360IP Japan Fund, and we also manage an accelerator program called ACAT, in short for Accelerator for Commercialization of Advanced Technology. We also manage several government programs in Japan aimed at promoting advanced tech ventures. 360IP has investments in Japan, USA, Taiwan, Korea, Indonesia, and recently we made our first investment step in Sri Lanka. We invest in diverse tech sectors like ICT, biotech, advanced energy, and also healthcare. Before the first quarter of 2019, Sri Lanka was not in 360IP's investment roadmap, and we did not have any specific plans to invest in Sri Lanka. One reason for overlooking Sri Lanka may be the fact that Sri Lanka was in the shadow of India, which is a global giant when it comes to science and technology innovation. A large number of global venture capital firms, private equity firms, corporate venture capital arms, and also individual investors are very active in India, and we can say India is a red ocean for tech investments. Building a convincing case for investment in Sri Lanka was the biggest challenge I faced when proposing Sri Lanka to 360IP. The high quality of Sri Lankan science and technology professionals, and stories about successful startups, continuous growth in ICT exports, and winning medals and accolades at international competitions may help a little bit in building a convincing case, but that is not enough for the investors. So back in 2019, I did some research with my team about the existing venture capital landscape of Sri Lanka. Well, we came across some pretty interesting facts. First and foremost, Sri Lanka was completely a blue ocean for venture capital firms, and only 1 or 2 VCs had some presence in Sri Lanka at the time. Then we also saw that Sri Lanka had a somewhat active angel investment framework to support very early stage startups, and the amounts invested were also pretty small. At the same time, we noticed the small size of the domestic market, which had a direct impact on the growth of a promising startup. I also remember an important paper published by the ADB in 2018 that said the survival rate of a startup beyond the angel round in Sri Lanka was less than 5%. In countries like Japan and USA, the survival rates are much higher due to the well-established ICT VC frameworks for ICT sector and for other sectors as well. Then we found more things, like Sri Lankan startups had limited insight of the global market opportunities, for example, and there were limited opportunities for open innovation and also limited variety in tech portfolios in Sri Lanka. Well, the lack of early stage venture capital was partly due to the fact that there was no legal form of VC fund in Sri Lanka. We found more weaknesses in the domestic venture landscape, which actually made us visualize a great opportunity in entering the Sri Lankan venture ecosystem. In Sri Lanka, an investor putting his money and expertise into a budding startup actually did not have a clear route of exit. There are limited buyers, and the possibility of an IPO at the Colombo Stock Exchange was also very limited. Then we also saw several macroeconomic issues, including the risk of currency depreciation and downgraded credit ratings. Now, if we want to invest in Sri Lanka, we must give some creative solution to these problems that would make a win-win-win case for VC investors, local startups, and their stakeholders. Although the issues I pointed out earlier may sound like weaknesses or threats, we at 360 IP saw them as great opportunities to invest in Sri Lanka. After our preliminary groundwork, we could build a convincing case for investing in Sri Lanka to fill the venture capital void by opening up the Japanese and the global market for Sri Lankan startups and high growth companies. So as our first investment project in the country, we selected a blockchain based supply chain traceability startup called Tracified. Tracified was a spin-out of 99X technology, and it is a well-known ICT company in Sri Lanka. Let me explain a little bit about how Tracified came to the picture. Since we had an interest in Sri Lankan ventures, I asked some of my close associates in the science and technology sector in Sri Lanka to recommend some potential targets for investment. Tracified was recommended by several professionals, including Dhammika Gunaratne at MIT, Wajindra Kandagamage, who was the chairman of National Best Quality Software Awards at BCS, British Computer Society, Sri Lanka section, and also Ruwan Amarasekaran, who was the secretary of the British Computer Society. By 2019, Tracified had gained local and international recognition via NBQSA and Epicta, and they also had a good tech product in hand. And when we spoke to the founders Dileepa Jayatilaka and Utpali Ratnayaka, we immediately got impressed about their technological expertise. Like I previously said, the domestic market gave them very limited opportunities to grow in terms of investment, global business opportunities, and growth prospects, leading to a possible IPO at a leading stock exchange. Well, the founders were well aware of those limitations, and genuinely they wanted not only an investor but a tech and business partner to help them reach their goals. The managing director of 99X Technology, Manosekaran, who was a seasoned business leader in Sri Lanka, got actively involved in Tracified's efforts to attract a foreign investor. Well, to make a long story short, Tracified got successful in getting through our rigorous and proprietary testing processes, and we invested in Tracified. Let me wind up by telling you one of our plans for the Sri Lankan tech investment realm. Okay, this is a future plan. At 360 IP, we have plans to set up a new venture fund to support advanced science and technology startups in Sri Lanka, to help them grow to a level that would enable them to get listed at the Tokyo Stock Exchange and other global stock markets. One of the most important factors for such a venture fund is the value creation for its LP investors. At 360 IP, one of our primary goals is to maximize exit options for our LP investors, and most LP investors, they prefer an exit via a lucrative stock market like the TSE. On the other hand, the stakeholders of a startup that we invest also prefer such an exit. So we welcome institutional investors in Sri Lanka to partner with us, and Sri Lankan investors taking part in such a VC fund managed by 360 IP would automatically get all the benefits they desire and would gain a direct route to a lucrative stock exchange like the TSE. The experience and success of 360 IP as a fund manager and technology commercialization company would be quite useful in maximizing returns for Sri Lankan investors and startups. To add more to it, our investment vehicle is well tested and is already operated and very well evaluated by qualified institutional investors in Japan. So let me wind up by thanking the organizers of this event for giving us this valuable opportunity to share our thoughts. And I wish you all the very best for a bright future. Bohoma stuti, domo arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you.
There are more ways to communicate with audiences than ever before. Multiple channels, plentiful data, and rapidly evolving technology that impacts current and future communications as they look to connect with brands they like. The choices you have for communications today are an important investment, but it's how they are optimized that makes them powerful. from creation to engagement, from your desktop to your audience's mailbox and the inbox, across the web and on mobile. Whatever the channel, message, size, or screen, we connect your brand to your audience with an entire spectrum of integrated services and technology. We help you create effective, integrated, interactive communications. Manage print and digital projects, assets, channels, and geographies. Deliver content to audiences in every way they interact with your brand. Optimize your multi-channel marketing and business communications. Communications that spark conversations, motivate customers, build brand loyalty, and grow profits. We are across the street and around the world. Our global capabilities allow us to work with you wherever you are. We create engaging, interactive experiences. We are on a mission to enable the future of innovative communications. We are R.R. Donnelley.
Hello, I'm Amar from RRD Go Creative, Senior Vice President Operations, and I'm responsible for Colombo. Thank you so much for inviting us to be part of the Sri Lanka Investment Forum 2021. And I'm really happy to be able to talk about or to give you our perspective on why Sri Lanka. Well, our association with Sri Lanka goes back to over 30 years ago when we actually pioneered BPO operations here. Our years of doing business in Sri Lanka have been very successful and rewarding. And for me personally, I've been extremely fortunate to have been able to work to expand both the nature and the scope of our business. So, why did we choose Sri Lanka? In the services industry, the most important asset we have is our employees. For us at RRD, in order to stay ahead of the curve and in order to stay competitive, we need to ensure that we have access to the best possible talent. Given our strong foothold in India, we undertook a detailed study of the South Asia region for expansion, and Sri Lanka checked several crucial boxes in our decision-making matrix. These of course included the availability of an educated English-speaking workforce and an education system that was producing graduates with the right skills. Even more important for us was the fact that we had access to specialized skills like research and accounting. Needless to say, the enabling business environment that Sri Lanka represented was a big draw for us in this region. Over the years, we've come to appreciate the country's progressive policies that promise both stability and a business environment that's conducive to growth. It's important for us to provide uninterrupted services to our clients, and our operations in Sri Lanka allow us the right balance in the APAC region to do just that. Having said all that, what we are happiest about is our team in Colombo. We know that Sri Lanka ranks first in human capital skills, and as part of our talent management strategy and for ensuring a robust business continuity framework in APAC for our clients, we have invested significantly in Sri Lanka. We have a diverse, skilled, and highly motivated workforce, one that has helped us establish and nurture resilient business operations over the years. Going forward, Sri Lanka will continue to be a strategic advantage for RRD. Digital transformation globally is both a disruption and an advantage, and we are excited about the possibilities for the future in Colombo. Thank you.
The new era of smart everything is all around us. In the cars we drive, the way we communicate, the way we live, the AI that's powering it all. And wherever smart everything is, you'll find Synopsys. Our customers create the amazing silicon chips and powerful secure software that make it all possible. And we empower them to build their best. Synopsys is the leading solutions provider for designing and verifying state-of-the-art chips. And we're the leader in helping customers build secure, high-quality software faster. We are at the heart of innovation in the era of smart, secure everything. Synopsys, from silicon to software.
You just heard in the video about our tagline, from silicon to software. Let me now give you a brief of our products in this space. Any semiconductor design starts with design creation. We enable our customers with software products in this space to take a high-level architecture in Verilog or C and translate that to electronic circuits. And then we make sure the circuits tie together and meet the goals at which the design needs to operate. This phase is called design implementation. Along the way, we have a lot of tools to make sure the intent is achieved. And as you go along in the process, what has been created also needs to be manufactured. So there are certain design rules that we need to follow with respect to the manufacturing process. A parallel pillar to design creation is design verification. At every step of creation, we have verification tools today to verify the intent and make sure that it's verified as necessary at each stage of the design, starting with functional simulation tools to emulation tools to prototyping to catch as many bugs as possible. And sitting in between these two tracks of design creation and design verification is our third pillar, which we call design IPs. We are the largest producer of silicon IPs for our customers. Many of you, I'm sure, are aware of the standard interfaces like USB, Ethernet, PCI, the various camera interfaces that are all needed as pre-verified silicon IPs. Synopsys provides a long list of these IPs to our customers. Sitting on top of this is a layer of embedded and application software. Recently, in the last 5 years, we've made an entry into the quality and testing of application software. That's how our customers globally use these products to create the next generation of innovative solutions in the electronics design space in various markets like computing, communication, automotive, and consumer applications, building smart devices. And hence, we believe that we are at the heart of electronic design with our products and solutions.
Self-driving cars, machines that learn, lightning-fast communication across the datasphere. These breakthroughs are ushering in the era of smart everything, where devices are getting smarter and everything is connected. It's all powered by silicon and software. From the chip to the cloud, Synopsys technology is at the heart of innovations that are changing the way people work and play. We help you meet new requirements for power, reliability, mobility, and security that are the foundation for smart everything. Usher in a new era of chips and software and bring smart everything to life with Synopsys.
Being a global company, Synopsys designs and develops our products and solutions to globally. We scout for the best talent and look for bright and innovative minds to address the challenges and provide solutions. In our quest for such talent, we found this team in Sri Lanka through an M&A. This team was established as a small group in 2011. Yes, that makes it 10 years today. We acquired them in 2015, and as we began to integrate this team, we saw a possibility to grow this into a larger group. They work in many of our advanced verification technologies, including machine learning, which are very new and advanced areas in the space. Our collaboration in any country needs a strong ecosystem with respect to good university education, which we believe you have established with University of Peradeniya, University of Moratuwa, where we pick most of our engineers from. We also work with the university to conduct workshops and seminars and get them ready for the industry so the graduates can be productive as soon as they get out of college. Looking ahead, we would like to continue to invest in the talent and grow the management layer. So as we expand the team here, we can take on bigger challenges and own certain areas of product development and be able to stamp their authority of designed and developed from Sri Lanka. Before I wrap up, I would like to thank SLASSCOM for giving us an opportunity to be a part of this forum. Thank you very much.
Spiralation program is a tech startup support program. We provide a seed funding grant as well as any other necessary support that is needed for startups.
The ICTA program has been running since 2003. So when you think about it, you've got almost 15 years of experience of trying to bring companies from zero to become heroes. And that's what Spiralation does.
Spiralation was government having skin in the game.
The Spiralation program played a pivotal role in terms of showing the world the capabilities of the Sri Lankan entrepreneurs. Right now, it's by default the most premier program in the country.
It was not so much about the money, but the learnings in terms of how to start a company, the legal framework, the technical thing, and mentors were able to guide us in terms of how to do a solution. That was very useful.
Branding කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා දැනගන්න තියෙනවා. මම වචනේ විතරයි දැනගන්නේ. මේ Spiralation program එක තුලින් තමයි මම branding කියන එක දැනගෙන brand කරන්නේ. අනිත් එක finance, accounts කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා මම හරියටම දැනගත්තේ මේ Spiralation program එකට ඇවිල්ලා workshop එකකින්.
It gives us the confidence and the guidance and mentorship which were really required at that time.
இந்த ப்ரோக்ராம்ல பங்கு பெற்றதனூடாக உங்களுக்கு தேவையான ஸ்கில்ஸை வளர்த்துக்கிற மாதிரி மட்டும் இல்லாமல் இதே மாதிரியான மைண்ட் செட்ல இருக்க நிறைய பேரை நீங்கள் மீட் பண்ணலாம்.
This program is very unique in the sense it is structured modular wise, where everyone gets exposed to various aspects of business.
One of the most important things of Spiralation, what they gave for me, is the connections in the ecosystem. There were events conducted and also we were given the exposure to so many people out there in the industry.
Through Spiralation, we were able to go beyond Sri Lanka, exhibit our solutions in many countries, Europe, Australia, as well as South Asian countries.
Talking of Spiralation selection process, more than the product, when it comes to entrepreneurship or rather product selection here, we look for the person.
Entrepreneurship is none other than an attitude or a mindset. So I see this Spiralation program as an entrepreneurship mindsetter, which is actually a critical need for the country to make more entrepreneurs.
As of now, we have supported over 50 startups. 50 startups who, out of which we have over 80% of the startups who are still running, which is a great success rate in my opinion for a program that supports early stage startups.
And I found that Spiralation definitely adds a lot of value to the startup ecosystem. I myself have benefited in personally investing in Spiralation companies. And probably one of my most successful companies is a Spiralation graduates.
When you look at talking to the companies who are not selected, some have got good learnings, been through the program, and they have gone to the market with good learning. Some have come second time, some have attempted many times.
මෙම ව්‍යාපාර ඔස්සේ මේ වන විට රැකියා අවස්ථා 300කට වඩා අධික ප්‍රමාණයක් මෙම ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨයේ දී කිරීමට අපට අවස්ථාව ලැබිලා තියෙනවා.
And I'm so proud to be known as the founder of Spiralation because of success that we have achieved, but also because I know that through the struggles that we had to make this a reality, we have grown and the country has benefited.
While the program matures, we've seen the next wave of growth in the ecosystem taking place.
ඔබට මෙම තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණ ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ නව ව්‍යවසායකයෙකු විදිහට ඉදිරියට යාමට අවශ්‍ය නම් මෙම ස්පයිරලේෂන් වැඩසටහන ඔබට අනගි අවස්ථාවක්.
Hi everyone, my name is Sachindra Samararatna, Director, Startup Ecosystem Development at the ICT Agency of Sri Lanka. It is my privilege to present to you a glimpse of the tech startup landscape in Sri Lanka today. Our vision today is to become a startup nation by 2024, with having 1,000 startups contributing to the GDP of this country and especially to export revenue and generating employment opportunities. We have gone through a journey to come to this point. What you see on this slide is our journey of the past 10 years. ICT has been privileged to be part of this journey from its beginning. And you would see many other organizations coming into the play to support startups as an ecosystem. Especially during the past 5 years, we have seen a growth of organizations, individuals supporting this ecosystem. So we have come to this point in the past 10 years, but how do we get to our milestones in the next years to come? Currently, we have been featured in the Global Startup Ecosystem Report as a country which have achieved ecosystem value of 117 million, which is in 2019. And we also saw a 4x growth during the 2.5 years from 2017 to 2019. We also have our own platform, which have registered 538 startups up to now. Startups which vary through the different startup stages of ideation, traction, which you could go and see on this platform, people driving it. If we take some of the numbers that we have extracted from Startup SL of those who have registered their business in ROC, you would see on this chart that it has gradually grown during the past many years. And I need to point this fact that this is only a sample, which is seen in our startup database or Startup SL, and it could be much more, but some fact for us to be very happy about. If we talk about the ecosystem in terms of the industry it serves, this slide would give you a glimpse of the various industries, fintech, logistics, the e-commerce sector, even drone manufacturing, IoT in agriculture, travel tech, many spaces which startups have been contributing. The growth of the ecosystem is enabled by the various organizations which support it. This slide gives you a glimpse, according to the ITC report, which was published, of the various organizations, including universities, the funding organizations, those who are providing shared co-working spaces, those who are providing incubator, accelerator services, the venture capital funds, all of these various elements coming together beautifully to support an ecosystem for its growth. If you go a bit more detail into some of the players, some of the programs in name, these are some of them. And it's important that these enablers are also supported in a startup ecosystem so that the landscape can thrive. Sri Lanka is also connected with various global partners, including investors, other partnerships with organizations like the European Union, special MOUs signed with various countries, organizations in Southeast Asia. There are international events which are having their regional programs here, boot camps which are well renowned like Techstars, running startup weekends in Sri Lanka, where the global connectedness is very important for us to be known and for us entrepreneurs to be ambitious enough to produce software which is globally competitive. If you take ICTA's year last, or what have been up to in 2020, we are happy to say that the Startup SL platform that I mentioned has been recognized by the Ministry of Finance as a source where any government organization which requires software for a budget of maximum of 2 million, which is less than 2 million, will be sourcing services from those who are registered on Startup SL, which will give boost to the startups in the country. And happy to say that we'll be running Spiralation, which is the incubator and accelerator for the past 10 years, successfully supporting more than 90 startups. And something new that we've done in 2020 is especially looking at the broader startup landscape and engaging two major firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Startup Genome, to produce two very important reports, out of which one is the impediment study, impediments faced by startups of Sri Lanka, where we have identified 12 areas of focus, which are challenges to startups. And to overcome this, we have come up with an action plan and are working with 14 different agencies, authorities of the country, collaborating with them, discussing with them on how we can make our laws, our procedures, our policies much more startup and investor friendly. We have also engaged with Startup Genome, the global analyst, who have conducted an ecosystem study of Sri Lanka, benchmarking us with global startup ecosystems, and have given a direction on how we should go forward to accelerate the Sri Lankan ecosystem. They have analyzed Sri Lanka based on the success factor model that they use to analyze all other countries, and have given us a direction and positioned us according to their life cycle model as an activation stage ecosystem, which means less than 1,000 startups, and giving us milestones of where we should be to go through this life cycle to become an integrated ecosystem in the future. And have directed us, provided a guidance of 3 main areas that we should look at as an ecosystem when we fund various programs and organizations to get into both local and international. 3 main areas, which is growing number of startups, increasing startup quality, and increasing early stage funding. And these are main buckets that gives us a sense of direction of what we should prioritize. And with this priority, we would want to see startups being supported at each stage of their growth, and that's what this funnel resembles. Inspiring more than 100,000, ideating, supporting ideation for more than 10,000, which will give us 1,000 startups, 1,000 live startups, and from which at least 700 being revenue positive, and from that at least 200 being scale-ups, which are generating export revenue for this country. And to do that, various types of interventions have to be made, what you see at the bottom, whether it's incubation support, providing them funding, accelerating them when they're required, giving them market access where required, and especially in the scale-up stage, how do we help them exit? How do we link them up as from government to government engagements, from private sector engagements? How can we help them incorporate and spread their footprint globally? So various areas of support which are required. And it's to support this entire landscape that we also have done a study, as I said earlier, with Genome to understand the focus, with PwC to understand the impediments which are there for startups at these various stages of growth, and to remove them so that they can thrive. The main word there is thrive, not to just exist, but to thrive. And finally, we want to see the vision coming true, and that's why we want to collaborate with all parties out there, locally and globally, to strengthen this tech startup landscape, to see an inclusive startup nation with having positive impact and sustainable, an ecosystem which has startup and investor friendly government which understands and have maybe a special desk supporting startups, legislature and policy which is startup friendly. And with this, having a globally recognized set of tech startups and founders to support this, having an entrepreneurial education system, an entrepreneurial landscape which is there in universities, in our schools, which has entrepreneurial thinking embedded into the system. And this to be done not in a silo, but connected regionally in terms of Sri Lanka, but also globally, being part of the global startup ecosystem which is out there. And current times have made it more possible for us to do that. And we are connected with so many ecosystems which we are learning from them, and we are also sharing our experiences with them. So it has been my privilege to be able to share with you on the tech startup landscape of Sri Lanka. If you have any questions, please do write to startups@ict.lk, and myself and my team would be happy to respond to you with the answers that you need. Thank you very much.